Welcome, everyone. And my name is Marvin Jenkins, and I'm the coordinator for the Women's Business Center for Maryland Capital Enterprises. And we are a nonprofit organization, and we assist women who are either starting a new business or trying to expand an existing business. And we have offices in both Baltimore and Salisbury. And we service the Eastern Shore of Maryland, Baltimore City, Baltimore County, and Anne Arundel County. And we offer a lot of different programs, educational programs, workshops, one-on-one consulting, one-on-one counseling, as well as loan assistance. So I'll put my information in the chat so that you can see it as we go along. And I don't want to take up too much time, but I'll turn it over to Maxine here in a few seconds and let her take off with part 2 of QuickBooks. Okay, Maxine, it's all yours.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Marvin. Good morning, all. This is Maxine Whitelaw from Max's Taxes on day 2 of our QuickBooks training. Hopefully, if you guys have, we're going to do a quick review of everything we looked at yesterday, but we're going to start out today with some real detailed information and going a little further into the QuickBooks system. So as you can see, we're back on our main screen, the Avengers Landscaping Services. We're taking care of landscaping services in the greater California area. It has a little bit here with the profit and loss, our expenses, invoices, and sales. We're going to start today though with the bank accounts, which you'll see right here on this side. We're going to actually go into those bank accounts and see how transactions appear in the system. So we're going to click, and there's a couple different ways to go into the bank accounts. We're going to go from this side, right there on your dashboard, which gives you the detail registers. You can also, if you take a look at the left, you can go through banking on this side. Once you click into there, you'll see at the top, there is actually banking, app transactions. And we're just going to click through each of those to show you the different items. Rules. So rules are if you want to set up a specific rule. So you always go to Wawa to get your gas, and you want all your gas receipts to automatically go in, and you don't want to have to go through the process of reviewing them. You would set up a rule. Again, we have tags, which is a fairly new system. You can also tag those items, whether they're incoming or outgoing, and then receipts. And receipts would be where if you've made that trip to Wawa, it's automatically going to post. You want to upload a copy of that receipt so that you have it in your system stored permanently. But we're going to start in here with banking. And if you can see on your banking module, it's got checking, it's got a savings account, and it's got a MasterCard. How these systems are set is they're automatically linked so that they're always updating data. If you click that icon button that says update, it's going to update the information that's coming through QuickBooks, anything that's linked to your possible bank account, any of the credit cards you're using for expenses. We always guide our clients to try to link those accounts. It's going to make your QuickBooks system show all of that detail data. Once the system stops spinning, it's going to tell you any transactions that are out there that need to be reviewed. So for example, in the savings account, you can see there's a $200 transaction there. We're going to go in and we're going to match that up. So you just simply hit match, and that's going to process that right through the system. We're going to go into the MasterCard. Let's see what we've got. We've got several transactions in there as well. And if you look closely at your system, you'll see that where some of these say match, some of them may say multiple matches. So for example, in this client, they're going to squeaky clean every week. You just want to match which correct date did you go. So this particular transaction happened on 8/22/2022, and that's the date that's there. So we want to match it to that one rather than match it to the next week's transaction. So you'll see once you match that up, a couple items lower, that there's now only one match for that 8/29 transaction. So in 8/29, that 1999 squeaky clean car wash, again, can be matched up. And typically when you go into the system, it's going to show you each of your matches, what's already in your system. And part of what we're going to do today is we're going to actually go in and create transactions to see how that match will show up in the system. So that's for both expenses as well as invoices coming into the system. So we're going to go ahead and just show a couple of these matches so that we're going. threw us out of our system. There we go. We're going to go in and see right now, MasterCard shows there's 5 unmatched items. So we're going to go in and match those up. Now, as we go through each of those matches, you're going to see that the system will process that and put it into your bank accounts / credit card statements. And we're going to go in and actually reconcile one of those transactions. So in this particular transaction, as you can see, it says Laura's laminating and it's uncategorized. So it's very simple to categorize this. You're going to just go in and put Laura's laminating. And we're going to save that into our vendor. And then we're just going to categorize that. So let's say that is supplies for us. We're going to put supplies in and then just hit add. And by simply just going through that process, you're adding those transactions to your register, which back on the main page, we'll see where that register was. So if we look at that MasterCard register, and it doesn't want to give me back to where I was going. There we go. So any transactions we like that Laura's laminate that we just did, you can see that at the very top. So on 9/11, we're putting Laura's laminate into supplies at $150. And that's coming right off of your banking module. So we're going to create this last one. So this last one is Amazon. Let's see if we have Amazon in there as a vendor. And if not, we're going to go ahead and add that in. And let's go ahead and categorize that Amazon as material. It's just job materials. If it was for a specific customer, you can also add the customer in. So let's just go in and say that this was part of Amy's Bird Sanctuary. We're just going to add that all in. And now, as you can see the little green check mark. That means that all of the transactions for that particular bank account has now been processed. We're going to go into the checking account and also do the same thing because I want to go forward and actually do a bank reconciliation and just show you what that looks like. So we're going to go in and match this. There are a couple options when you go to matching. You can match 1-for-1 as we're doing right now, going across and then actually hitting match. You can click a couple of those that are matched up correctly. And you'll see at the top, it says 2 money incomes, 1 money transaction. It'll give you what you've matched and you can say accept. That's going to go through and accept those transactions in groups. So that way you don't have to go through one by one, going through each of these. So let's do another batch and see if we can't pick up a few more of those. So in this case, now we have 3 transactions of outgoing money of $771, and we have 3 transactions of incoming money. We're going to hit accept. And we want to go through, I want to do a bank rec for the month of August. So our goal is to do all of those August transactions and focus on those so that the system will actually give us a good bank reconciliation when we go through. So we're processing all of these accepted transactions. And then moving forward, any of the ones that are unaccepted, you're going to go in and actually categorize it. So we can categorize this as supplies. In your own business, you're going to know what those transactions relate to. But for this, it's a landscaping service. We're going to assume some of those are just supplies related to the business. We've got Books by Bessie. Now, again, here we've got a bill play for that Books by Bessie. We're just going to go right ahead and match that up because we can see in the bank details this was Books by Bessie, not the other item. So how many transactions we have left? We have 2 transactions related to August. So this A rental, we're going to again see if that is already in our system. If it's not, you're going to add it in. And basically, if you see, as you add the new name in, it's going to go show A rental as a vendor. We're going to save that, and we're going to categorize this as supplies. And just so that you can see that when it comes to vendors, vendors are a little bit further down in today's lesson, but all your vendors, as you add them into the system, they're in this link, and they go alphabetically. You can absolutely go in after, let's say you've entered a vendor and you're like, well, now I have the address. I want to go ahead and add that address in. You can always come back and add an address to the system. So let's say 123 Jones Street. Or if you need to make a correction at this point, you can make any corrections that are needed. You can save parcel information. The system will take whatever information you have available on your vendors as well as your customers. So we're going to go back into banking, and we've got one more transaction for August before we can go do that bank rec. And that last transaction again was on 8/15 for Squeaky Clean Car Wash. I'm going to go ahead and match that up. So from here, since we've got all of our transactions for August already situated, we're going to go in and reconcile that. I know yesterday we discussed where the reconciliation is and where the gear icon is, but right there on the gear icon, you can go and hit reconcile under tools. And we're going to start with reconciling the checking account. So you have several options when you go into this. You can reconcile any bank accounts or credit cards each month as you get your monthly statements to review. We're going to start with our checking account, and we're just going to hit resume reconciliation. So I had started a reconciliation just before this class started, and I just wanted to kind of set it up so you can see what that reconciliation would look like. Basically, you're going to go in and you're going to tell them that the bank beginning balance was $5,000, your bank ending balance is $2,500, and you're reconciling all of this data through August 31st, 2022. Once you save that, you'll see that the transactions here are asking you what transactions do you want to clear. We would go through and clear the transactions that all relate to August. And right now we're showing a difference up here of $2,122.38. So I've set up a journal entry for us to fix that balance, and I'm going to show you how to do that journal entry. In your accounting tools, there's a little tab that says journal entries. We're going to click right in there and create a journal entry. And you'll see that there's one already created here that says bank reconciliation. And so what we're trying to do here is we want to reconcile that bank transaction, and we're going to reconcile that through. And I'm going to show you both ways of doing this. 2122.38, 2122.3. You're going to save that amount, and once you X out of there, you should be able to see yourself coming back in to QuickBooks. We're still off by $1. I jotted that number down wrong. So if that difference still exists, of course you can see up here it still shows there's a difference. So we're going to go back in and we're going to edit that. There's a couple ways you can edit it right on here. As we're looking at it, we're going to delete that and go through. There we go. So now you can see that as we selected all the transactions in this bank reconciliation, we're showing the statement ending balance was $2,500. We're showing that we had the beginning balance was $5,000, that we had 34 payments totaling $7,800, and we had 12 deposits totaling $5,000. Now that bank account is reconciled, we would hit finish now. There are options. If for some reason you get through this and you believe that you're still missing information, you can always save for later, or you can close without saving. But we're going to hit the finish now button and go through and actually finish that reconciliation. And then what I want to show you is on here, you'll see a history of any reconciliations you've done. So if you're doing this regularly on a monthly basis, you're going to go in and reconcile each and every month. And you can absolutely go back and see what was reconciled, what was not reconciled. You can attach your bank statements here. So your bank statements, as they're coming into the system for each of the months, you can attach it, and this QuickBooks will save that data for you. You don't have to actually keep a paper copy on top of it, but paper copy is always a great backup. But you can actually attach that statement right there. And then when you hit view report, it's going to give you a reconciliation report. It's going to give us our vendors landscaping service, our reconciliation report that was done on 9/14 today. It's going to go in the system and say, here are all the items that we reconciled, and here are the transactions that go with it. This really makes a great support for any kind of audits you're going through, any kind of reviews. If you're borrowing money, a lot of times the banks, everybody wants to see that you're doing a regular job of reconciling and understanding your accounts. So that takes us through what we looked at in banking. We're going to go in and let's finish these last 3 transactions just so we have them done. A1, as you can see, because we did the A1 rental before supplies, the system will automatically assume the previous category you used is the same category. So let's say we're going to put supplies in for this one, but instead of using Amy's Bird Sanctuary, we're going to use Bill's Windsurf Shop. And we're going to add that into that system. On this last one, we're getting actually a receiving from A Rentals. So let's assume that this is a refund from A Rentals. We've sent something in, and then we're getting it refunded back. So in some of these accounts, you have the supplies that you can actually put it through as a refund. In this case, we're going to put it back through to supplies. So that way, when you go into the supplies account, you'll see that some of that money was refunded back to you. And this last one is Bessie's Books. Let's categorize this rather than as uncategorized income. Let's put this in as a expense reversal. So now we've covered all of the bank activity that has happened to date. And as you can see with the check marks here, they show you where you stand. One of the things that's really important to make sure you look at is that in QuickBooks it gives you a number, and at the bank it gives you a number. Typically those numbers should be equal to each other, but what's looking like it's happening right now is that some transactions have processed, but we have not actually reconciled them through the system yet. And that's why all of these numbers are showing that they're completely off. But this again is a sample system, so it may be that the system has activity that we put in that doesn't match up. I want to go on and do a little bit with sales to show you just kind of how the sales functionality works. We want to go in and we want to kind of show you the sales functionality, the overview. We're going to create a sale. We're going to create a customer, create a new product, and then put all of that together so that we can see the full process. So in the sales module, you'll see that they give you all of these options. One of our first options is just a basic overview of the system. What are you looking at? How are your sales doing? You can do it compared to a previous year. You can do it compared to a previous month. There are many options in how to manage your sales. The next step is going to give you all of your sales. So this basically shows you, here are the, you were paid $2,916 over the last 10 days, or 10 pays over the last 30 days, my apologies. And then here are the open items. We've got $5,282 of open invoices. We've got $1,940 of overdue invoices, and then you have $750 of unbilled activity. And right now we have 0 in estimates. So we want to go in and create an estimate, and we're going to create the estimate for a new customer. So, and for a new product as well. So we're going to start with creating the customer. We're going to click in here, and this gives you a listing of all your customers. If you ever go to create a new customer and the customer's already there, you're going to find that the system will tell you that. So we're going to create a new customer named Stephen Rogers. So we're going to go ahead and create new customer. And we're going to go through and put customer's name up here. So we're going to go Stephen Rogers. You're going to want to put in an email. If Stephen Rogers belongs to a company, you put that company name in there. If there is anything with emails, phone numbers, faxes, websites, we can put all of that information in there. We're going to put a basic address in there for right now. Boulevard. And of course, as you can see, there's a street address 1, street address 2. If there's a suite number that needs to go in there or any other information that can be put in there. You can see my typing is slow this morning, so please forgive me. We're going to save this for now. So Stephen's in there. Let's say after you've put his name and information in there, you want to add a quick note. That note will be seen by anyone internal into your systems and typically not seen on any of his invoices. So if you want to put a note in, must send invoices to the manager. So whatever kind of note you want to put in there, it's going to sit there, save. Let's say you put that information in and you realize, oh, wait a second, I missed something on Stephen Rogers, or I spelled the name wrong, or I don't want to see it displayed that way. All my customers are displayed last name first. You can go back in and save that, and that's going to change how that shows up in your system. So again, if you want to see all of your customers, they're all right here. So again, if you want to look him up later, you've got that information right there at your fingertips. So we've created Stephen Rogers. We're going to go in now and create a new product. And the new product we're going to put in the system. So your products and services, just to kind of go through a very basic, products and services is everything that you're selling. So depending on what type of company you are, even service-based industries, it's a great way to track how your revenue is coming in. For us in the tax business, we actually put in what's related to our accounting services, what's related to our tax services, what's related to other services. So in this landscaping company, we're going to put in a new service called in-ground pool and landscaping. And so we're going to create that new service for us. You've got a couple options in there, but we're going to stick really simple to just a basic service. And we're going to, again, you're just going to type in the information that is necessary for that in-ground pool and landscaping. You can copy any information in. I think I showed you yesterday where there's the ability to import. So let's say you're not a new company, you've got several products that you're selling, but it's all in Excel. Once you go to set your system up, you can actually import all of those products and services. You can set if you want to sell them to customers, if you're not selling to customers, what the sales price is. Do you want to set a price for it, or does it differ for each service? In this case, we're going to set the sales price at $75,000. The other item that you can do relates to taxes. Are you collecting sales tax on this issue? Are you passing that sales tax on? Those are whole other items in there. We can also create SKU numbers. We can add a product. We can add a picture in, which I didn't actually think about putting in, but I'll put that in for our next class, a copy. But you can put a picture in here of what service you're selling. If you want to create a SKU number with that, so let's say we go that our in-ground pool and landscaping is INPL. That's for us internally, so that we know that if we're doing above ground pool, it's ABPL. So things like that are items you can absolutely categorize. Let's say you have a subcategory you want to put in there. Right now, the subs they have in here are design and fountains. So maybe this client not only wants an in-ground pool, but there might be fountains associated with that. This would be some of the subcategories we can put in. So right now, we're going to go ahead and just save this. And so now when we go looking for pool, we should see our in-ground pool and landscaping, our SKU number of INPL. It's a service type business, service type item. We're showing the sales and a detailed description. We're showing the sales price at $75,000. You can also add a cost in there, depending on whether you're buying this from a supplier or if each one of your in-ground pools and landscaping are custom built specifically for that particular client. So what we're going to do beyond here now is we're going to go in and we're actually going to have our customer get an estimate for that. So we're going to create a new estimate for Stephen Rogers. So our new client is now going to get. So his address is going to come in here. If we had an email in there, which shows it with an email address. If you want to put an expiration on this, so let's say we are giving him this quote today, but we only want to give him till Halloween to go ahead and make that decision. So we're going to give him that quote, and we're going to say in-ground pool and landscape. So for the product we just set up, automatically the product comes in, the description comes in. We gave it a quantity of one, we gave it its pricing, and it's going to say whether that's taxable or non-taxable. This is the estimate that we're going to send out to Stephen. So again, this may be something we may adjust. Right now it's already pulling up that California taxes are 8% because it's looking at where we're going. If you wanted to put a discount on it, let's say you're telling the client if they accept this offer within the next 24 hours, you're going to give them 10% off. That's a lot of money. Or maybe 5% off. That's a better deal. But again, you can put any of that in, any messages you want to put on the estimate. You know, thanks for choosing us, for using us. Thank you. Our team. So anything you want to put in there, any other messages you want to put on the statements, and if you want to put an attachment in there. So let's say your contractor went out, they actually gave a contracting estimate, they wrote it up, or they wrote up a design spec, or there was an architectural spec to go with it, you would add that in there. So right now we're going to hit save. Another option as you look at this is you can actually print and preview. So yesterday we did some customizations. This is what your estimate looks like right now. So when you send this to your customer, they're going to see this. Here's your address. Here's the estimate. Here's the estimate number and date. It gives them their expiration on there. So it tells them very clearly they have an expiration date on that. And with estimates, you can put an expiration date or you can leave them open-ended. If your prices don't ever change and you feel like they could accept this offer 6 months from now, it would still be the same price, you actually can leave that estimate open. So at this point, obviously, you could print this yourself if you want to print it. You can send it in a PDF, or you can send it directly to your client. So one of the functionalities that's down here is you can save and new, and save and send. So if we had, right now we don't have an email address, but I'm going to put in our office email here, just so you can see this functionality. So if you hit save and send, it's going to come up, it's going to give you there's Stephen Rogers, and you can customize the information that you're sending to the client as well. You can, there's Stephen, here's the estimate we talked about yesterday. Do you want to go ahead with it? There's an additional discount on there if you complete it within the next 10 days. Things like that can all be put in there, and you can customize each and every one of your estimates as you send them out. We're going to send and close, and we'll see. So in QuickBooks right now, it's going to show pending, and if we open it on our side, you'll actually be able to see that that invoice was both created and sent on that day. If that gets accepted, you'll see at the point where we accept that as well. So we've gone through the customer and the product. Now we're going to go back through and we're going to actually create an invoice to relate it to that. So let's go into our all sales. And we're going to make, again, here's that estimate that's sitting there with pending. One of the options of that estimate now becomes, I can create an invoice from that. So we're going to create an invoice. And that invoice is now going to go to Stephen. So let's say as soon as you got done with that, you got off the phone, Stephen called you and said, absolutely, I want to go ahead. You're going to go right through and create an invoice. When you create an invoice from your estimate, you don't have to do anything. If there's no adjustments to it, if the estimate was accepted, face value and everything's the same, you can go ahead right in. But let's say Stephen called back and said, you know what, on top of that, I want to also add some concrete work in there. I want to add a rock formation in there. Let's put some pricing in that. Let's put like $750, another $2,500, just another $2,750. And let's say that 5% deposit now changes down to 3 because he's not going to be able to do that. And you can also set if there needs to be a deposit as well. So we're going to save this, and now we're going to say, okay, now he's accepted this new contract. Here's our total invoice bill now. And we can actually send this invoice out. Let's say Stephen said, I'm going to prepay this whole thing. So again, you can print preview this. And this is going to come up with your invoice. I think we set everything on the standard invoice, but let's say we want to go back and actually change that logo, because we did look at that yesterday about changing how that invoice goes out. So we're going to X out of here. So before we send it to Stephen, let's just go back into our main system and adjust how that invoice is going to look for us as it goes out the door. So we're going to go back into sales. We're going to go back into sales, customize our list. And we're going to put a new style in there for our invoice, just so we get something that we're going to add that logo in, show logo. We're going to change all the coloring, and we're going to make it a little bit red, make our font a little bit different. Save it. And then on our invoicing side, sorry, system's running a little slow. Then we're going to go back into our sales. We want to look at this invoice one more time. I'm going to go down here and we're going to preview some. Sorry. On our functionality, once we update, typically once we update the invoice, it automatically changes from the standard to the main, but it looks like the functionality here isn't working the same way. So we've created that invoice, it's there. I will go back in and make sure that tomorrow when we go through, or when we go through the class again on Monday, that I show you how that updated invoice would appear on a new format. But I want to move forward real quickly because I want to be able to get through a little bit more on how we would set up the invoicing on the other side. So this particular product is now set. His invoice is there. If you go back through, you'll see that there's nothing in estimates now, but you have open invoices of that $83,000. And let's say Steve goes in and pays that. And we're going to receive that payment, and then we're going to say that was a cash payment. Doesn't really make sense that it's cash, but we're going to have it go in as cash just so we can show you how that payment would work. All right, so now that $83,000 has now been saved. You'll see again up here how your numbers have changed. We're now showing that you collected $86,000 in the last 30 days. And if we go back into banking, it's supposed to update that. But of course, we did not get that, and it did not update that additional sale. But now the sale is off of here. We show that we received that payment, and that cash payment has come through. Typically with the cash payment, you obviously have deposited the funds, and those funds would show up in the bank account with the $83,000. I want to go in and show you the expense side of this entry. So let's say that we now have sold Steve his product. We're going to do an in-ground pool. It's going to go in the next month. And so we need to actually go contact Tony, the pool company, to help us with this work. So we're going to look up and see if we have a Tony in here, which we have a Tony, but not the Tony we're looking for. So we're going to create a new vendor. And we're going to call it Tony's Pool Company. And again, with the display name, you could make that any way you want. So we want the display to show Tony's Pool Company. Go in and put in an address. Again, you don't have to put all this information in at once, but the more information you can put in the system is obviously the better your invoices will come out, the more professional it would look and easier for you to track down everything. And now we're going to create an actual bill to Tony. So Tony is going to put in that pool for us. Here is the vendor information. This is the opposite side of the transaction. We've now sold the pool. Now we've got the vendor that's going to produce that pool for us. We're going to create an expense or a check for him. Depending on how big your company is, sometimes you guys may do purchase orders or other items down through that way. Typically what I see are clients either create an expense for the item or they're creating a check. And it's very easy to flip one from the other. So right now we're going to say that Tony's Pool Company, out of our checking account, we're going to issue them a request for a new pool. And add subcontractor work. And looks like they have contractors in there. Right, so if we don't have that service here, let's add that in. So we're going to sub out all of this work. In this functionality, we're going to look into expenses because we're creating an expense, and we're creating an expense for cost of labor / contracting. We're going to put that in there. Our number function is in there now. So if we wanted to create a number that all contract work goes through 1240, that's all going to go in. So we're going to say cost of labor, and we're going to say contracting worker. And we assume that this is going to cost us about 50 grand for them to do this. And this is going to relate to Stephen Rogers and his particular pool that's going in. And any notes you want to put in there as well, memos, please call for a detailed plan. All of this information can be put into the system. If you want to put an attachment in, you can also, let's say there's architectural work or some type of additional document, you would attach that right there, and then we would save. And at this point now, on the vendor side, what we're looking at is here are the expenses related to all of these items. So that top line that we just put in, it's going to show Tony's Pool. It's costing us $50,000, but we're selling the pool and all of our services at $83,000. So we should, when we go back to our dashboard, see a little bit greater profit up here. And so for the last 30 days, we're showing that our profit now goes up to $88,138 of income, $54,000 of expenses. You can see right here in the expense section that there's $50,000 related to cost of labor. In the invoicing section, you're going to already see that you've been paid that $83,000 for the new pool because he wanted to prepay that. And you can see your sales did an uptake. Again, and in any of these sections, if you want to drill down or hit on them, they will actually take you right back to the information. So you can see, here's a breakout of your sales for the last 30 days. Here's where you made a lot of money, and you can actually see which clients are paying for what and how much services you've sold in that last 30 days. I want to make sure I'm watching my time. Okay, so we've gone through basically the sales of this pool. We've gone through the costs related to this pool. One of the other items I wanted to show is, let's say we realize that after we've set this up, that the vendor is actually a 1099 individual. He's a subcontractor, and we need to make sure that we cut him a 1099 at the end of the year. We're going to go in and find that contractor, and we're going to edit, as we've done in many other items, we're going to edit his actual profile. And if you come down, you'll see at the very bottom of this, it says where are your track payment for 1099. So typically a 1099 individual is a client who is either a sole proprietor or a small company. And as a business owner, you have to issue them a 1099 each year based on how much work you do with them. So if you do any more than $600 work with a particular client, you need to issue them a 1099. So just to make it easier on yourself, if you put this when you set up your system, you're going to put in their tax ID or their contract, whether they're a sole proprietor, or if they have an EIN, they're going to put that information in, and that information is going to go in here and be saved. So that when you get to the end of the year, you're going to be able to run, and you'll see this as part of your vendor listing. Just make sure, there we go. Prepare 1099, and this is going to show you, here are the 1099s that need to be issued out for a particular year. I'm not sure the system's going to let us go through the whole process, but once that's set, it'll actually give you a report of any 1099 individuals you've paid throughout the year. And so we have on here Tony's pool, so that he'll be in there with the 1099 for this tax year, because obviously if you've paid him more than $50,000, if you paid him more than $600, which that $50,000 will qualify, you'll want to issue him a 1099 as well. And then the other item I think we didn't do on that pool is we also want to make sure we decide what are the terms. So our client paid us up front, but let's say we negotiated terms so we get about 30 days to pay him, or even 60 days. This is a little bit longer time to pay that. And then when we go back to our invoicing, it's going to show when those invoices are due. So if you went into print a check or make a payment, those invoices would only show up with the items that's available for payment. I wanted to hit on one more last item on the dashboard. So we've basically gone through the dashboard, the banking, the sales. Customer leads is one of, again, a new functionality that we haven't used very much in our practice. But again, this just gives you the list of your customers, as you can see. If you happen to have some marketing or leads, I know QuickBooks has some new options on that. The last functionality that's in here is cash flow, and the last thing I want to touch on today. So of course, based on our cash flow, we just got that nice big money in. As you can see, in September, we should be showing money in and money out. And once we make that deposit in there, let's go ahead and make that deposit so we can show that $83,000 coming in. We're going to go make a journal entry for that. I'm going to just go back in for that Stephen Rogers, put it into our checking account. Now it's $83,000. So I just wanted to show you in my cash flow. I want to go ahead and bank it real quickly and make sure that that showed up. It showed up as a new transaction, and whether we need to post it first before it goes through. I'm not sure why it's still not. So with our cash flow, it's still not showing us that 83,000. Showing our 50,000 going out, but not showing our 83,000 coming in. Typically with QuickBooks, you would see that additional funds coming in.
I think just because that's not hitting the bank account, we're not actually showing the money coming in and out. We see Tony's going out right here, but we don't see the actual additional funds coming in. And I might have to go back to the system and see why it's not showing that. But typically, we would usually see that as part of the functionality. So it would show us how much money we have coming in, how much money we have going out, and what we're looking at from each of our days. Because on our sales side, we can see up here where it has increased all the sales, it has increased the expenses, and it has increased our overall profitability, but it does not show up in, so it's still showing as a not deposited. And that may be because the bank account hasn't pulled that information in. So typically the bank will see that those funds come through in the deposit, and because the bank isn't physically seeing that, it's not actually adding it into our deposited funds. I think I've covered everything I wanted to kind of go through today, which again was your dashboard, just some basic overview on banking and transactions, receipts, the sales functionality, what we've got going on in sales, how to invoice a client, how to create that estimate, see these estimates and see any make adjustments to it. Again, how to add a customer into the system and how to add additional products into the system. And then we finished up with a little bit in the expense module, which is creating, again, a vendor, making that vendor a 1099 individual, and then taking that vendor and putting them into an actual expense that we're going through. And then, of course, the cash flow, like I said, I'll take a quick look to make sure by Monday that when we get to the reporting functionality, that our reporting shows all of those items as far as income coming in, expenses going out, and making sure that that functionality is showing up. So what our intention is next week we want to touch on reporting projects and really looking at some more of the accounting and some of the extras that are new on there. We'll go through stuff like insurance, commerce, but we're only going to touch base on those items. This functionality up here is the majority of what you're always going to use is your sales, your expenses, your basic banking information, and reconciling and seeing what your financials look like. I am going to ask if anybody has any questions, any concerns, anything that we went over that was too fast. Please feel free to reach out right now. I'm more than happy. We've got about 10 minutes before the class really ends. Do we want to go through anything?
Maxine, I did have one in the chat. They were asking about the approximate cost of QuickBooks. Do you have any ideas?
I do. So QuickBooks is one of those functional systems that can be very cheap and inexpensive, or it can be the other end as being very expensive. Yesterday, when we took a look at it, I showed you something up here called, I think it was in our usage. So when you go in, this is a sample company right here, but when you go into the true QuickBooks, basically they give you a usage and it tells you what different types of levels you want. But I think the Essentials, which is the very basic model, starts about $50 a month. And the more expensive models and the more, robust models that have multiple users and multiple things going on can be as high as $250 to $300 a month. So that just gives you a ballpark of what it is. It depends on, again, how much you're looking at. So $50 a month is your low end. Sometimes you can find it for even a little bit cheaper, like they'll give you the first year at a half price. But going forward, of course, then they kick you back into a higher price. Was that the only question that was out there, was how much it is?
That was the only question that I had in the chat. So I encourage everybody to, if you have a question, please unmute and ask it. This is the time to do it.
And again, if you don't, I was going to say real quick, Marvin. And if you think of a question later, like let's say you go through the system later, or you're looking back at your own system and you have some questions, please feel free. You can email us at mwhitelock@cpa.com. I'll give my information to Marvin and Lisa, and they will go through and offer that up to you. We're more than happy to at least take a look and answer a question if you think there's something that you didn't want to ask in the class, but you're like, I want a little bit more information on what that really means in the cash flow, or what does that really mean when your expenses are showing up.
And just to let everybody know, we are recording this, so you will get a link to the recording. So if you want to go back and review any of this, I know it helps a lot sometimes to be able to go back and you can stop it and sort of take your time and go through it. But you will be getting a link for this. So we had that. Someone asked that in the chat also. So does anybody
Yeah, absolutely.
have a question?
Marvin, I was just going to show one quick thing too on the dashboard while we were just kind of
Sure.
wrapping it up
Sure.
before we end. As you can see, I think I didn't go through this yesterday when we went through this, but one of the items too with your profit and loss in this dashboard is you can set it up any which way you'd like. So if you want to do something that right now they're all set for the last 30 days, but let's say you want to look at it for the whole year, you can kind of go back and see what is my profit for the whole year? How much was my sales and income for a year at a time? So you can customize, same thing with sales. You can customize it to anything that you feel more comfortable with. If you're looking at things by month, you're looking at things in a different functionality. That was just the last throw out there I wanted to put before we wrap up.
Oh, sure. That's good. Well, if there's no other questions, then I guess, like I say, if you haven't registered for the third session, please do so. Third session is on Monday, same time at 12 noon. And no other questions, we'll go ahead and wrap up this session. Thank you, Maxine. Very enlightening.
Oh, you're welcome. Yep, thanks everyone. Oh, I see a couple chats coming out here. Okay, great.
All right.
All right, thanks Marvin.
Thanks.
All right, I'll see you guys on Monday.
Okay, bye-bye.